Otherwise it is absurd. If it didn't rely on its own kind, it is going to be absurd. Yeah? And then therefore the last one says, since it cannot be absurd, for one with the potential when taking birth, what other conditions are required, the absence of what conditions forbids her from taking birth. That's Kenla's translation. Yeah?
Was that the first time it was actually translated in this word?
Yeah, so then the absurdity, why it's absurd will follow later the reasons. All the reasons of why it's absurd follow right after that. Yeah? So then since no element of earth and so forth should exist which would not give rise to sentient beings of heat and moisture and so forth, if beings arise independent of mind, therefore all beings arise from the nature of their karmic seeds. Leave the last line. Yeah? What is this verse saying? It says, if matter were sufficient to produce consciousness, then whenever you have the same elements such as heat and force, yeah, either you have some elements such as heat and so forth which don't give rise to life, or you have the ones which do give rise to life. The ones that don't give rise to life, if matter was a substantial cause, it should also be there. Or if matter were a substantial cause, wherever the same kinds are there, it should give rise to the same kind of life. So there's two ways to interpret this, right? We said that. It follows that that's true. It follows you accept this. If matter is the substantial cause of, if matter is the only substantial cause of life or consciousness, it follows that wherever you have the same matter, the results should be identical.
Agree.
It follows that all the orange trees on a tree are all identical, all the oranges on a tree are all identical.
Why?
Because they have the same exact substantial cause.
Reason is not established.
It follows they don't have the same exact substantial cause.
Agree.
It follows they do have the same exact substantial cause.
Why?
Because the seed is the same substantial cause for all the different oranges.
Reason is not established.
Take the seed, it follows it. The substantial cause of the oranges.
Agree.
Take the seed, it follows it is the cooperative condition of the oranges. Take the seed, it follows it is not the substantial cause of the leaves.
Why?
Acha, leaves is
No, it's substantial cause of variance.
we're on a different
No, I'm not very certain.
Take the seed, it follows it is the substantial cause of all the oranges.
Agree.
Follows all the oranges are the same
Why?
because their substantial cause is the same.
Reason is not established.
Follows the substantial cause is the same because the substantial cause is one.
Reason is not established.
It follows the substantial cause is not one.
Agree.
Follows the substantial cause is one
Why?
because the substantial cause is one seed. Huh?
No permission.
It follows the substantial cause is one seed.
Agree.
It follows the substantial cause is identical. There is something that is identical which is the substantial cause.
Something that is identical between each.
Identical means the substantial cause of one thing is exactly the substantial cause of another thing.
So this one substantial cause gives rise to
Why?
many effects.
Is it?
It's not.
No, it gives rise to
It's
many
not
effects.
identical.
Take the seed, it follows the substantial cause of all the different oranges.
Why?
It follows the seed is one.
Agree.
It follows all the different oranges are different.
Agree.
It follows those different things have one substantial cause.
Agree.
It follows that different things have one substantial cause. Those different things have to be identical.
Why?
It follows that heat and moisture is the only substantial cause of living beings. All the living beings that arise from the same heat and moisture have to be identical.
Agree.
Agree? Agree? It follows that if all the oranges arise from one substantial cause and the substantial cause is the same, all the oranges have to be the same.
Agree.
It follows that all the oranges are the same
Why?
because they arise from one substantial cause.
Reason is not
It
established.
follows that arise from one seed.
Yeah, agree.
It follows that there is one substantial cause.
Why?
It follows it's not one substantial cause.
Agree.
It follows they have different substantial causes.
Agree.
What are the different substantial causes?
The seed, the different branches, and the different nutrients that go into different oranges.
Fine, perfect. So then take the different organisms that arise from the same heat and moisture. It follows that if they arise from the same heat and moisture, they don't have to be identical.
Agree.
It follows this reasoning doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
What do you mean yes? You didn't say that. Try and justify it.
The opponent's possession.
No, this is ours. Hello. This is
From
Dharma
heat and
Kirti.
moisture they arise.
Yeah.
How can we arise from heat and moisture?
That's what. So I had said, come, look at Geshe-ma's translation.
Page.
Well, scientifically speaking, we all arose from heat and moisture. If you ask the scientists, right? There was like this
At some point.
thing in the beginning of
At
the
some
earth.
point,
The soup.
Yeah, this soup, right? It was heat and moisture, and then everything arose from that. No?
But maybe there were different organisms, like there was
In the soup.
in the soup.
But we arose from it.
No, so the situation that is being created here is before the organisms came, if the heat and moisture was identical, then all the heat and moisture that arose from that identical source should also be identical. If the accounting for differences is only the heat and moisture, then bring in the verse from substantial causes. Without a change in the substantial cause, you will not notice a change in the substantial effect. If you notice a change in the cause which doesn't lead to a change in the substantial effect, it's not a substantial cause.
Correct.
Remember?
Yes.
So if it is a substantial cause, the changes that you observe in the substantial cause have to be observed in the effect.
Agreed.
So if the substantial cause is the same, all the changes that it undergoes have to manifest the same way in the effects.
Agreed.
So take different organisms that arise from the same substantial cause. It follows they all have to be identical.
Agreed.
Take all the organisms that arise from the same seed. Follows they have to be identical. He's saying the branches. Okay.
Right. It's
So-
not the substantial cause that changed. Right? Sorry.
Wow. Take the seed. It follows it's not the substantial cause of the oranges.
Agreed.
Oh my god.
It's the karmic
Good.
imprint of the orange.
It is like you mean that there are different fruits on the same
Yeah,
tree,
like you know one
but
tree
they
has
all
different
have one seed from the which they
from which we all came. Like you
Okay.
plant one seed, 10 years later you come back and you're like, oh what a beautiful tree of oranges, and all the oranges are there. All those oranges are not the same, no?
Why?
They're the same. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are sweet, some are not sweet. Right? Yes or no? Right?
But they're all generally sweet when they're sweet.
Just please don't be like those tricking fruit vendors who make you taste one. We've already discussed this. It's not true. Okay? Got it? Got it? Not got it. Like I've understood the reasoning. Now you're saying the seed is not a substantial cause. Both of you are saying
Yes.
What is the substantial cause?
Take those different oranges, follow the seed is not a substantial cause.
Agreed.
You both, I know you believe this. Okay, one sec. What is the substantial cause of those seeds? Of those oranges, please tell me.
Different parts of the seed are
Yeah.
different substantial
That
causes.
becomes
Ah,
the oranges.
different parts of the seed
That
are
becomes-
different parts of substantial causes.
Yes.
Are the substantial causes of the different oranges,
Yeah.
and amongst those different parts of the seed, they are all different.
Yes.
Yeah. So what about this heat and moisture? It follows that there is no one identical source of heat and moisture from which different organisms arise. Yeah. What is, what is this verse saying then? Read Geshe-ma's stanza one sec. Here. Geshe-ma's is 189. There would be no means by parts of earth etc. anywhere that would not be generated as living beings, born from warmth and moisture and so forth. Therefore all the elements would have the entity of being seeds. Yeah? And then if you read Kyasa Rinpoche's translation, commentary, he's giving two readings. One is the literal one, which is, it would follow that all elements have the entity of being the seeds of living creatures, because there would by no means be parts of the earth and other elements anywhere that would not be generated as living beings born from warmth and moisture and so forth. Yeah? Then if you carry on, alternatively, it would follow that it is not feasible that living creatures with red heads and yellow bodies and those which are different with reverse features are born in the same water that was filtered and not polluted, because they would be born merely from the elements as their causes. Got it? So take, like if you have a petri dish and you look at it and you take water, like you take first water from the filter or something and you let it be there. After a while you start to see organisms growing in. Those organisms that grow in it, that's the subject here, okay? So we're not saying they're arising only from the water. But if the water was the substantial cause of those organisms, would all those organisms have to be the same?
Yeah.
That's the analogy.
I get the analogy, but it doesn't So it works on a level, but it doesn't work on another level.
That's what I want you to try and figure out, okay? Now, if it works on a level and it doesn't work on a level, that's fine, okay? But then you can do this. Take the oranges that are from the same seed and oranges that are from another seed. Yeah? It follows that the oranges from one seed and from another seed will show marked differences. Or the differences within the oranges from the same seed will be different from the differences from the oranges in the other seed. Does their being traceable back to one common cause lead for them to have more similarity amongst themselves than if there was another one? Because then you can say the water has different causes, but the drastic difference cannot be accounted for only by water. That's what Gyaltsab Rinpoche is saying, red heads, yellow bodies, and then, I don't know, green heads and purple bodies, or flat heads and round heads, thin bodies and fat bodies, like that. So if it's from the same substantial cause, which is just water, can you not account for such drastic differences? So you can take this in two ways. Yeah? Is that okay? You can take it in minor differences are explainable because their way of thinking about it, which is the part of the seed that becomes one orange is not the part of the seed that becomes the other orange. Because as the cells multiply, the cells that multiply into one orange are not the ones that multiply into the other one. But they all share a common locus, or like maybe same genetic material, if you want that twin analogy. So twins can be slightly different, but they share a common genetic material, therefore there are similarities. If that was the only substantial cause, then even the psychological traits would have to be very much in sync with each other, as the physical traits are, because they share the same genetic material. So you're trying to trace notice or like account for the discrepancies in their characters. And if it's only through matter, then it can't be so different. That's what the various ways that you can read this. Is that okay? So can you try and do this with the orange and the, I mean, you can do anything that's like.
But then the cooperative conditions should also play a role with regards to potential
But
differences.
take the cooperative conditions that follows, they do play a role.
Yes.
Take the cooperative conditions that follows, they play a role in the nature of the effect.
Nature of the effect, or you mean that
The nature of the effect.
nature of the
What do you mean by nature?
Why?
That between the essential nature and circumstantial nature.
So nature of the effect is the circumstantial or the...
So now, it follows that the cooperative conditions have a role to play on the circumstantial nature of the effect,
Agreed.
not on the essential nature of the effect.
Agreed.
It follows that the essential nature of the effect is to be determined by the substantial causes,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
So it follows the cooperative conditions can only make it have different circumstantial natures, but the essential nature will have to be identical.
Agreed.
So if the substantial causes are identical, it follows that the nature of the effects has to be identical,
Agreed.
right?
But so the differences, as Venerable was saying, the
Can you come
differences in the oranges could be as a result of the cooperative condition.
that you now see. What is the
Yes.
essential nature of the oranges? What is the circumstantial nature of the oranges? That you need to see.
The substantial
It
nature of
will
an
work
orange
very
is that
well.
it's an orange. Then the sweetness, etc., is a cooperative condition.
So then answer it according to that, no?
Yeah.
When you debate it, answer it according to that. The essential nature of a person or the essential nature of the two twins is that they are,
Human.
I don't know, you have to figure that out. When you're talking about substantial causes, you have to figure out what that is, right? So, but now you can bring in your discussion of substantial causes and indispensable causes over here. So use those verses of substantial causes, that's what I'm saying, okay? Yeah, so you have three. Where if only matter is the cause, wherever there is wherever there is matter, there would have to be those effects. Wherever there is the same matter, there would have to be the same effects. Or wherever there is the same matter, there will have to be similar effects. You can't account for great discrepancies. I don't think you can go much beyond that. It has to be one of these three.
But I was wondering if, I mean, the thing about them producing the exact same results is mostly found in the commentary, right? Doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't really reflect in the root text.
What?
The thing about the same substantial cause, talking about same substantial cause producing same effects. This
No, that's the
verse
point.
39 mostly talks about matter producing
It
beings.
just says matter. It just, so if you want to really stay true to the root verse, root text, then you just have to go with that.
Just because other like more scientific things point towards against there ever being identical causes. So that's
It
why
points against it, right?
against it, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very
So
difficult
then
to find.
that's why alternatively, Gyaltsab Rinpoche says, but I've discovered that actually all what Gyaltsab Rinpoche says I mean, we do have a tendency to venerate Indian people for some reason. I don't know why. So whenever you trace it back to some Indian thing, we all feel like it's, I don't know, like it's more valid almost. I don't know why we have that attitude.
Probably from the Tibetan.
It's just a, yeah, it's like a hang up that we have. I don't know why it's more valid. I mean, they're both to be discussed, but they both have to be checked for their validity. So just because someone said it in India doesn't mean it's more valid. But I think the point when you say it is traceable back to India, it's not that it's more authentic. It suggests that the tradition that they are following is something that has been discussed for a long time. That's the only real advantage of saying that. So this discussion has been ongoing for many years, centuries, millennia at that point, and this is what they've come up with. So this is what the people who were discussing this in the past have concluded. Does it make sense to you? That's what it is. Yeah?
So what, could you repeat
So the other one, the
conclusion?
alternatively one,
Mm.
the discrepancies are
The
what we're
minor
talking about.
discrepancies.
Yeah. Which is why alternatively, Galsa Rinpoche adds alternatively, it would not be feasible, this is page 190, it would not be it would follow that it is not feasible that living creatures with red heads and yellow bodies, and those which are different, with reverse features, are born in water that was filtered and not polluted, because they would be born merely from the elements as their causes. That's what it says, right? So that's the alternative. It means that the first one said, everywhere there is matter, there will have to be sentient beings being born. Because you have said only matter is the substantial cause of life. That's the
opponent.
that's the root. No. Really, why are you getting confused on this? Dharmakirti said.
Dharmakirti said that life originates from matter?
No, Dharmakirti has said, if you, the opponent, says the substantial cause of consciousness can be matter, then wherever there is matter, there will have to be the substantial causes for consciousness and the indispensable causes for consciousness. Therefore, there will have to be beings arising from all forms of matter.
Which matter, external or internal?
It doesn't matter. Matter, just matter. Okay? Alternatively, wherever you have the same kind of matter, you will also have to have the same kind of beings coming from that matter, because it's the same matter. So not only will all matter have to give rise to sentient beings, the same kind of matter will have to give rise to the same kind of sentient beings. At which point you can't say from the same pool of polluted water or stagnant water, you have all of these organisms that arise that are so different from one another.
They all have to be the
They
same.
all will have to be
By that
similar.
logic.
By that logic. Right? So this is Dharmakirti's consequence. He's not saying this happens, it's a consequence that he's giving. Got it? Yeah.
I can ask a question.
Yeah.
So, according to the scientific understanding, so organisms do not come from the polluted water as their substantial cause. The substantial cause is the eggs of the insect.
Exactly.
So then, how does this fit into the debate? That's what I'm
So,
asking.
good.
Not the answer, just how to fit this into
So this
debate.
is then what we do over here is, and I told them also in class before, but the point is, one thing that we've been doing a lot recently is we say, oh well, these are kind of very old, archaic findings which have now been modified with a lot of scientific discovery. And so these arguments are not valid anymore. That's one way. And then so we sometimes just dismiss it as not valid. And many people do that. But I don't think that's something that you can actually do. Because if you were just to take it all the way back, they come from eggs, and those eggs will come from another organism that is similar. And if you trace it all the way back, there will be some point where there will have to be, I don't know if it will be an original organism, or they will be reduced in number and then they proliferate, no? Like, so there's one initial organism, and as it mutates and evolves, it takes on different aspects. And the reason that we give is because of the climatic conditions and where it finds itself, and then the survival of the fittest and all of those things. Those are all contributing factors. We have no problem. What the Buddhists are asking over here is, if matter is the substantial cause, and it is the same matter that is giving rise to two organisms, how can you say that those two organisms are different if the cause is identical? That's where the problem lies over here. So, if you have one cell that divides into two, and then two different organisms arise from that one cell, and those two organisms, then you can notice a difference that continuously manifests as more and more different, and the substantial causes only matter at each point. how do you account for such drastic differences in their bodies, in their personality, in their character, in their preferences, so on and so forth? That's the argument over here. So with the egg one in the water, you have to take it further back. So that egg, where did that one come from? Where did that one come from? Was there an initial organism that divided? Was it a single-celled organism that divided into two? And then that each one divided into two, and as the cells aggregated, they became bigger organisms? If that's the case, then why are all those things so different if the only substantial cause is matter? Analogous to if oranges come from a tree, from a seed, from the same seed, and they all have to be similar, and the seed is one, but the seed for apple is different, then the apple seed and the orange seed accounts for differences because the substantial cause is only matter. Now in organisms and living beings, when you see such a large difference, how can you only reconcile it with matter is how you would try and draw the analogy. Of course, the polluted water, it's not arising out of water, something that I think is being done and dusted away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the question is a bit more general. Like, what is a skillful way to debate this scientific evidence in a debate context? Like,
I think the standard ones would get the ones that really make sense are the twin ones. The twin ones are always very nice. I've heard a lot of them dismiss it, but I don't think it's so easily dismissible. Like two things that have the same exact genetic material, they have very similar bodies. How do they have such different personalities? Why are their psychological traits so different? Most people will say because it's a nature versus nurture thing. So then as they grew up, the environmental factors led to have different personalities. But the environmental factors also affected the physical form differently, right? But it's still rather similar. But the psychological one went so different. So how can you account for that psychological drastic difference and such physical closeness if the substantial cause for both of them is exactly the same? That would be one skillful way. Yeah? And the same thing would work here as well.
So is the default, so you're saying if two things come from one substantial cause, then they have to end up being substantially one in that sense?
No, they have to be identical, not substantially. Of course not substantially.
Okay. They cannot be substantially one. In fact, they're substantially
No,
different.
the analogy says different organisms. So it's not saying that they have to be substantially one.
Okay.
It's saying how do you account for those differences in the substantial. What's the definition of substantial cause? This has to be clear because the substantial cause makes it rather clear. When can something not be the substantial cause?
When a change in the effect has no change.
When a change in the cause doesn't have any impact on the change in the effect.
Okay.
So matter over here cannot be the substantial cause of consciousness because you can do all kinds of stuff to matter and the consciousness stays unaltered. You can do all kinds of tweaking, mutations at genetic levels, but that doesn't necessarily have an impact on the consciousness. That's what the Buddhists are saying over here.
No, I mean, at a simple level, there is a relationship between mind and body in terms of, for example, your physical well-being. If you're not physically sick,
That we've said. We've said that.
there is a relationship.
But we've said that. That's
Okay.
already been said. That says
So
right
that
there.
is not discounted.
No, we said that right there. Look. 40. Should sense powers and so forth arise independent of one's mind that existed previously, just as one object mutates to give rise to the result, all should be equally to mutate as there is no difference in the reasons. We come back. The one that you said. If the individual sense powers and so forth are harmed, there is no harm felt to the mental consciousness. Whereas when the mind undergoes changes, change is also seen in those sense powers. Therefore, those karmas which are the dependent on which the present mind exists, are the causes of the sense powers. Thus, sense powers arise from mind. Here it's only saying my consciousness affects matter, then ahead will carry on here. If there exists support such as these, the same will continue later as well. Since consciousness of the body aids the mental consciousness, it is indicated that the mind depends on the body. So no one says the mind doesn't depend on the body. We're talking about a very specific kind of dependence where it is substantial, and substantial means if you observe a change in the cause and you don't observe a change in that effect, then it can't be the substantial cause. Is that what it says? Yeah? Whereas if you observe a change in the cause and it leads to observing a change in the effect, is it then a substantial cause? Yes? No? No. So what is the meaning of substantial cause?
If you don't see, if you see a change in the effect and you don't see it in the cause, it's not a substantial cause. So that's the
matter, it follows it is not the substantial cause of consciousness.
Take matter follows it is not the substantial cause of consciousness because changes seen in the consciousness are not necessarily seen in matter.
Changes in the matter are not necessarily seen in consciousness.
Same but the other way around.
No. The changes seen in the effect will not be able to be seen in the cause. No? That's the cause is already known by them.
Yeah, but isn't it a part of the
No,
Yeah,
it's other way
there
around.
was a verse that said, if there is no change in the effect,
61? What? No, 62. In the absence of changes in the substantial cause, no change will potentially ensue.
Yeah. In the absence of change in an object,
Yeah, if
62.
some other object changes, the former cannot be the substantial
Yeah.
cause. So if you
if
see a
an
change in
absence
the
of the
effect,
object changes, which is, yeah, in the absence of change in an object, in the absence of change in a cause,
yeah.
if an effect changes, that cause cannot be the substantial cause of that effect.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was what I said.
No, so take this. Take matter that follows it is not the substantial cause of consciousness.
Yeah, because changes seen in the consciousness are not necessarily seen in matter.
Okay, is that what it is? So what's the pervasion? What is the pervasion? If changes seen in the consciousness are not seen in the matter, it follows it is not the cause of substantial cause of consciousness.
Agree?
Therefore, the counter pervasion is if it is the substantial cause of consciousness, changes seen in the consciousness have to be seen in matter.
Yeah.
Is that the counter pervasion? Give me a correct sign. Give a correct sign so that then you will be clear about how you're going to debate substantial causes. Take consciousness, no, take matter. It follows it's not a substantial cause for consciousness.
Accept.
Why? Give me a reason.
because changes seen in matter are not reflected. Changes in matter do not affect changes in consciousness.
What's the counter pervasion?
Uh,
If it is the cause of consciousness,
if
It is the substantial cause.
substantial cause of consciousness. Yeah, sorry. If it is
Follows that.
If it is a substantial cause of consciousness, changes seen in matter
changes seen in, yeah. If
will,
matter,
will affect changes in consciousness.
is that what the meaning of substantial cause is? If something is a substantial cause of consciousness, changes seen in that cause will have to manifest in the effect,
Accept.
right?
Yeah.
So for something to be the substantial cause of something else, changes seen in that thing will have to be seen over here. If changes are seen in a cause are then seen in an effect, it follows it has to be the substantial cause of that effect.
Agreed.
They're not entirely sure.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the changes on the
But it-
on the body will affect the consciousness.
That's another thing.
Yeah, see.
But can cooperative condition contribute substantially to the changes?
That you have to see. My job with your ear is extremely easy. I have to read the text and tell you the debate. Then you have to follow it. Yeah?
What type of change in the body does not affect the mind?
So here, can we just finish these verses there? It's all there actually. It's good that you said that. Okay, here. Now do 40, 41, 42, 43 and then you have it, okay? It's saying very clearly that changes in the body do not affect the mind. Please read. Should say, let's also read the Geshe-mata because sometimes Geshe-mata translation has to read it. Thus, 192. Thus, if the sense powers, etc., were to arise independently of their earlier continuum of similar type, just as one element thoroughly would become a living being, all the elements with no distinction would become living beings, right? Then, carrying on. When the sense powers are individually impaired, the mental consciousness is not impaired. That's the difference that's not seen. When you impair the sense powers, mental consciousness is not impaired. However, when the conceptual consciousness changes, one sees changes in the sense powers. Take the conceptual mind, it follows it is the substantial cause of the sense powers.
Why?
Because changes seen in the conceptual mind lead to changes in the sense powers. Problem. Then
Where
cash.
are you reading from? I'm sorry.
193.
190.
Then 195. Therefore, the base of the abiding awareness is an awareness that it depends on. Yeah? And then carrying on. As it is the cause of the sense powers, thus the sense powers have arisen from awareness. Yeah? 198.
Yeah.
But I think as it is the cause of sense powers, it's
Consciousness,
according to
mental consciousness.
consciousness.
Yes.
It is a cause of sense powers.
Yes.
As a cooperative condition.
You figure that out. It follows it is not a cooperative condition because it is a substantial cause. It is a substantial cause because changes seen in the concept in the mental consciousness are seen in the sense powers. What do you mean?
Agreed.
Great. Please. Mental consciousness is a substantial cause of sense powers.
Sense power.
Powers. Matter.
But mental consciousness, does it subsume like all the sense consciousness?
Not really.
What?
No,
How does it subsume?
because it's conscious.
We've done 41, 42. Okay, 43A and B we can do from decimal also. If 43A is on page 199, if there was a projecting cause such as the subsequent continuum, later the sense powers will also connect with the subsequent continuum as before. Which means, if there was a project, just read the commentary. Later, the sense powers of an ordinary being at the point of death will also, as before, connect with the next one because there is a projecting cause. What is the projecting cause? Mental consciousness. So therefore, you can carry on. That's what it says.
So it's
One
mental
more time,
consciousness.
Latisha.
If at the time of death, if consciousness is the cause of the sense powers, then at the time of death there is consciousness.
Except.
So it can cause the sense powers of the future.
Except.
So then after death there can be rebirth. That's what it's saying.
But we haven't established how it is a cause.
That's your job. You have to establish how it is a cause. Right? But it says over here. So you have to try and make sense of this. But you can, like look here, like my mental consciousness impacted my sense power.
I have a
Yeah.
psychological example.
Yeah, please.
There are people with multiple personality disorder, and when they switch from one disorder, diabetes can disappear from one personality, and in the next person, let's say personality A and personality B, they have two. One has diabetes, the other one doesn't have.
Physically.
Yes, I
Wow.
mean it's measurable. That's why.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
Thank you. I mean,
Yes,
that's the
yes.
best example. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You made my life so easy. I was talking about Kabir not being able to buy clocks. That's the best. Really?
Yes, I mean it's measurable. That's why I'm giving this example.
There you go.
That's crazy, man.
Done. Please go into it.
And the
This
other
makes
example-
really
This
good
is still
sense.
controversial.
No, no,
Dissociative.
That really makes good
Don't
sense.
say multiple. It's dissociative.
I mean,
I mean,
Come, that's a perfect example. Now use that diabetes. It's physical.
yes, it's physical.
It's totally. It's like it's a measurable variable in the blood. I'm assuming, right?
Exactly. It's like
Right?
sugar.
Sugar, so you're measuring sugar, the quantity of sugar in the blood. If matter was a substantial cause, how does personality switches lead to that? Done. Please.
That's
But do you
diabetes,
have to be sure that
diabetes can be
personalities...
hereditary, right? How can
Personality, huh?
diabetes can be hereditary? So it
But
can't-
if there is a measurable difference between someone who has switches personality and there is a difference in diabetes, even if diabetes is hereditary, this thing of projecting karma suddenly will take a lot more weight than it earlier had. I'm sorry it will. That's what, so that Dharmakirti's point. Dharmakirti is saying all of this and then he's saying, therefore the only alternative is there's a projecting cause. That's how he ends up with that's how he gets to karma. Remember I said please take it out of the brackets. Don't use karma as the go-to. It's the default effect, it's a default solution that you end up with. Now try and do the diabetes. Oh, that's so good. Are you learning?
No, I can find examples of it.
Is there other things also? Measurable
Yeah, for
things?
example, if you have myopia, something like this, like short-sightedness,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you, depending on your mental state, sometimes you see more clear, sometimes less. And of
Yeah.
course it happens also for
Normal people do that,
switch others.
aren't like multiple personality disorders still
That's
very
what I-
debatable
That's what I mean.
as if it even exists? Right? Not everybody agrees that
Personally,
it
as
exists.
a clinician, or I used to be a clinician, yes. Many things were debatable. Narcissism was
It's still,
debatable, like
but it's
20
not
years ago.
debatable anymore. Everybody agrees.
No, never. I mean,
It's
cannot
in
say
the
it's
diagnostic
objective.
Then if the existence of multiple personalities is debatable, how can the effect of multiple
Yeah,
personalities
that's
on
the
diabetes not be debatable in the medical community?
That's what I'm saying.
So,
But
But I think, okay, so if you're looking at it in a Buddhist way, whether it's there or not is another thing, but when you have multiple personalities, if it's, just go with the definition of clear and knowing. Is the aspect that the mind takes very different from one personality to another. For us, that's all that matters, actually. As far as the clinician's position goes, I really don't know. I, of course, don't know, not really. But from the Buddhist point of view, it's when you have two different personalities, is your psychological makeup different from one of the other? So are your mental states different? Are you perceiving different? Are you thinking different? Are they disconnected amongst each other? How do you account for the differences in perceptions and the aspect that your consciousness takes? I think that's sufficient over here.
I mean, we can also argue for people who are under strong stress, like in the war zone, the whole mental perception, what happens in there.
Same thing,
As
yeah.
opposed to when that was not the case, it's different.
Yeah, you can do all of those things.
But that's a cooperative condition that is.
But it's
Now,
happening
please
mentally,
do
right?
with indispensable cause and substantial cause, as it has been explained here and as we have studied it. Because if you don't tie it down to these two, they stay very vague, these discussions. I think I even told you when Gen was doing this debate with the scientists in the South, if you leave it very open-ended and vague, it doesn't help. The advantage that you have is that we have got a little bit of the, we're not saying this is right, but we're saying there is a little bit of material that has been discussed and thought about what necessitates substantial causes. So something transforming into something else is the definition of is the meaning of substantial cause, right? If matter transforms into personality types, you can call it a co-emergent property, you can say all of those things, but you still have to account for something that mutates or becomes something else. So if matter becomes different things, then one person who has the same material basis or the same genetic makeup, how can you account for such different personalities? How many can you have? Like 8, 9 different ones?
There have been many documents.
Yeah.
it depends on the book. If you take the ICD and the DSM-5, it's just different.
But more than 2, 3?
Yeah,
No, yeah, more than 2, 3.
Okay, so then how are you accounting for all of those different things? Literally, that's the question. And I don't think you have to be vague about it. You can be very precise about it. So please be precise about it. Yeah? You can do it with water. If you don't like the water example, let it go. But do it with these ones. The point over here, so this, then we'll stop. Now the subdivision here, the category over here, just so that you know, is here. Okay? This is all falling under the category of refuting that matter is.
But isn't that contributing to changes in the brain when it suits personality?
Yes, but within this, the discussion that you have specifically, yeah, this is all that. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay? Yeah? These discussions are all coming and saying absurdity would follow. Otherwise, it would be absurd. Why would it be absurd? Because the same matter. Firstly, see if you can prove that all matter will have to be a cause. That would be interesting if you can do that.
Wait, of what? All?
What it says in the text, Dharmakirti has already said it. So I'm just repeating to you what he said. He's saying,
Which words are you?
40.
Feel for you.
no. Since no element of earth, 3-9, since no element of earth and so forth should exist which does not give rise to sentient beings, if matter is a substantial cause of consciousness, all matter should give rise to sentient beings. That's the extreme absurdity. Now, we're tempering it down because we cannot reach that yet. But if you really want to be true to what Dharmakirti is saying, you should be able to say that. Maybe you should be able to prove, I can't do it, maybe you can try, that this pillar should be giving rise to elephants. That's how absurd Dharmakirti is saying it, probably.
Sorry, it says,
It's very doubtful.
so it's saying the mental consciousness is the cause of sense powers, and the sense powers have, is it saying the mental consciousness is the power of sense, is the cause,
Yeah,
the
that's
cause,
what it says.
or is it just consciousness?
Mental, it says very clearly.
So then, earlier it says, when the sense powers are individually impaired, the mental awareness is not impaired.
Yeah.
But there was that verse that said if there was a change in the effect, you should have seen a change in the cause. A change in the cause would cause a change in the
Yeah.
effect. But if the sense powers are impaired, that means there's a change in the effect.
In the cause. Very
Sense
really.
powers.
If the sense powers are impaired, the mental consciousness is not impaired. Therefore, seeing a change in the cause is not leading to a change in the result. That's what it's saying.
Okay, in that case, then the mental consciousness is not a cause of the sense powers because there was no change in the mental consciousness, but there was a change in the sense powers.
Then you can debate that. That's why. But here it's saying a change in the sense powers leads to a change. Change in the consciousness leads to a change in the sense powers.
Agreed.
So then,
But then how do you have a change in the effect without a change in the... To have had a change in the effect, there should have been a change in the
Yes.
cause. But there was no change in the cause, but there was a change in the effect.
which cause, which effect are you referring to?
Mental consciousness and sense.
What's the cause?
Cause is mental consciousness.
Without a change in the mental consciousness, there was a change in the sense powers.
Yes.
For example,
I mean, it says when you take this verse in Vishyama's book on page 193, when the sense powers are individually impaired, the mental awareness is
not impaired. So it's saying when the sense powers change, the mental consciousness doesn't change.
Exactly.
So then it's not saying what you're saying. You're saying something different.
No, I'm saying since the sense powers are an effect of the mental consciousness,
Yeah.
for a sense power to have been impaired, something about the mental consciousness should have been affected.
But again, you're going the Hendrix way. The change in the cause leads to a change in the effect. Why are you saying? But you're saying the change, the sense powers are the effect.
Yes.
Change in the sense powers doesn't lead to change in the mental consciousness.
Agreed.
So then how? That's
Okay, but how do you have a change in an effect without there having been a change in the cause?
because that's not the substantial cause of the sense power.
Oh, it's not the substance.
Who's saying it is? Of course.
So it's a cooperative relation.
That you have to figure out.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. That's the one. I don't have anything else to say to you.
Why would any matter have to be able to cause any consciousness? Why wouldn't it
That's-
just be
so-
like pillar consciousness or
No, I think literally Dharmakirti is trying to say it would be producing sentient beings. He's literally just saying that. He's saying
couldn't
that
it
matter
be different
produces,
kinds of it shouldn't produce an elephant consciousness?
it could
could
produce
just pro-
anything. It should be producing all of them all the time. That's kind of what I have a feeling where you should be able to take this.
If matter
Because
is a
I-
substantial cause of sentient beings, then absurdly all matter should be.
That's what he says, right? That's what Dharmakirti says.
You can almost take it there.
I think you should be able to take it there.
I think there's Native American traditions that say everything is conscious.
Now we're really getting into that maybe, but over here Buddhists have a different version of that, right?
That's why I don't understand.
Huh? Huh?
That's why sometimes it's not very understandable what they're
There is an
saying.
anecdote if there is a time.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Sure, certainly.
Can we finish?